Hello YouTube, hello Doctor Who fans, this is The Observer and this is the review of Doctor Who episode Hyde. Well, I expect a lot from this episode, I actually did expect a lot. It's written by the writer Neil Cross, who has written the previous episode in this season called The Rings of Akhaten, and in my opinion it was a great episode. And this episode was far better than the previous one, Cold War. It wasn't phenomenal or spectacular, but it was good. It was good from the beginning, from the start, and it had some valid points in it, some really good valid points in it. And before I start the analyzing episode, let me first give the short retelling of what happened in this episode. Well, this is a spooky story. Well, it was meant to be those horror spooky story, the ghost in the mansion, very typical. And we have actually, it begins with the two ghost hunters hunting down the ghost, the Maiden of the Vale, who lives in some mansion. I forgot the name, and I actually forgot the name of those two person hunting ghosts. But the important thing, the one is a war veteran who is hiding something, the other is a girl who is a strong psychist, who can feel the ghost. So that's the most important thing. And they are hunting for the ghost, and they have actually the very close encounter with the ghost before somebody knocks on the door, and who it is? It's the Doctor and Clara. And somehow they know about the ghost in the mansion. And you know, the story is not that complicated for me to give a very detailed retelling. They're finding out about the ghost in the mansion. They're finding out about the mysterious creature living in the mansion, which actually they didn't notice, but we notice, the viewers notice it. And by they discovering who the ghost is, they discover a lot about themselves, about the girl, why she has the psychic powers, about the guy who is a war veteran. And the Doctor realized something strange is happening in the mansion. He takes an entire cycle, the entire Earth cycle from the beginning to the end, and photographing the same point every time in history, and by merging all those photographies, he discovers that the ghost is actually not a ghost, not a supernatural creature, but a time traveler locked in a not parallel dimension, but in a pocket dimension. The pocket dimension is actually the dimension between the parallel and our current dimension. And it happens, so the Doctor, by using his crystal, his wits, uses that strong psychic to create actually a portal into that pocket dimension. And little by little, Doctor saves that time traveler, but got locked in that pocket dimension. And Clara, like a companion, is supposed to go and rush toward the TARDIS to somehow manage to help the Doctor. Well, TARDIS was first reckoned to help Clara, and we'll talk about that later. And but in the end, well, they go in the pocket dimension, they rescue the Doctor, and everything went nice. They discovered that actually time traveler is a granddaughter of the previous psychic living in the mansion, and everything is nice. We realize why Doctor really came in the mansion, and it ends really by noticing that this actually is not a spooky story, but actually a love story between people currently living in the mansion. By that creature who is actually in the mansion is not the same one living in the pocket universe, and they're actually lovers, cut by time, and they're finding each other. And Doctor, like he does, he helped those two creatures to get along. And that's all with the retelling. It's time for some analysis. So, to start analyzing this episode, as I said previously, this episode is good. It's really good. Why it's good? For example, why is this episode better than the Cold War? Because it's very simple. Because the Cold War, every episode should be character-centric, and should be, developing those characters, teaching us more about those characters. And we have these two new characters. The one is a war veteran, the other is a psychicist. I always have problems saying that. And we actually learn during this episode, during the 1 hour span of this episode, we learn actually not a lot about them, but we learn a thing or two about them. We learn why they're there, why they're doing this, what's between those two of them, and we actually realize and about the love which is not seen, and we actually realize a lot more about those two. And the problem with Cold War is that we have a captain of the ship, we have those grumpy officers, and somewhere during that episode they just disappear. They just become, extras of that episode, just, riding with the doctor and shooting stuff. The characters disappear. And when the characters are well written, they're actually pushing the doctor and his companion to become better integrated part of the story. And that's what this all is about. And it seems that Neil Cross is a really talented writer. Still, I haven't watched Luther. I want to watch it, I will watch it, but I still haven't, so I don't know his efforts in his own series. But as the ending said, this is actually a love story with the spooky elements. And this is actually, the spooky elements are very cliche and very standardized. We have a mansion that obviously doesn't have electricity, or it has but they're not using it. They're using candles. And why are candles good? Because the candles are not lighting an entire room. Actually, there is a lot of shadows, so there is a lot of things that can hide in shadows, a lot of creepy elements, etc., etc. And we have, beside that, what we have else? We have a person who is hiding his identity for some reason or other, and we have a psychist who can sense ghosts, who can sense their emotion, and we have a ghost, mysterious, creepy creature. And beside those creepiness of that episode, there is a lot of element of the horror and spooky. And what's interesting to me, I understand that Clara is afraid from all those darkness, from all those beating on the wall, from the ghost and everything, but it was so interesting seeing the doctor actually, who is petrified. Doctor is petrified, especially in the beginning, when he says, look, my hands are cold, and I'm feeling like somebody's touching my hands, and it's so cold inside his house. And when the beating started, he was scared like never before. And that was so interesting that it says that generally the horror atmosphere of the spooky story actually worked on Doctor very well. And it's not that that's the only time of the episode he was scared. When he was thrown in the pocket universe and cut from our universe, when he was in a forest, surrounded by mist, fog and everything, and when there was something in the mist, which is a classical horror punchline, something in the mist, you can actually see the Doctor is afraid, that he really is afraid of. He doesn't understand is there is something behind him, something in front of him, where it is, what it is. And the greatest aspect of the spooky story and generally the horror one is the mystery. You don't know what's hunting you. Something is bad, something is in mist, that something is hunting you. And that's the parallel when the Doctor says, you're just, not that scary, you're actually just a monster under the bed. When he mentioned that, he actually meant that when we're children, we're really small, we're actually afraid of the darkness, we're actually afraid of the monster in our, behind the door. And we're mostly afraid of what we don't know, what we don't see. And we never know what's behind our bed. So we're always afraid of the monsters, getting us behind our bed. And that's actually how this episode is playing out. We are scared by that which we can't, see, feel, hear. Okay, we can't hear, but we can see. And from that aspect, this episode really worked well. Well, other great things. Before I start with characters, now maybe it's better, it's good to start with characters. What I actually liked really is the beginning of this episode. We first see, those two new characters, hunting for a ghost. But what's most interesting is when Doctor, you know, rushes in the mansion and like he was like, oh, you're that. I forgot the name. Who is war veteran who has done a lot during the war, you know, blah 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 blah, and you're that good. You're that. You have done this, blah. And then he looks at that strong seist. I forgot her name. I should have written some of the names. He said, "Oh, you're her companion. You're his companion." But this is a time when the word companion is not used yet. You're his. But he said something very interesting, but I forgot. You're non-object personnel or something like that. But it was so interesting the way that it just took us 2 or 3 minutes that all those new characters got introduced, and we already have some mystery that we need to solve. We already have this guy who is, you know, hiding his, you know, why he's done during the war, and but what he's doing, and this girl who seems normal, but in the end she's special, by the way, and similar to Clara. So, and there is actually a point in time where Doctor sits with, not sits, but they're actually creating those photographs from the film they've filmed, and he actually talks Doctor actually talks with those Desperate and asking him, why are you, you know, hiding who you are from the girl? And he's saying, and why are you actually doing this mansion? You're a war hero, why are you doing in some mansion hunting ghosts? And he says something which is okay, not well thought, not bad, just okay. He said that during the war many people got killed, and many people were killed, I don't believe by him, you know, shooting them, but because of his actions during the war. And the way, I don't understand why, but he would actually like to, you know, he's seeing that ghost as someone who needs help, someone who is locked on the other side, and he really wants to help that ghost, because if he could, he would, you know, like to, you know, speak from the people who are the other side, because he might thought that actually someone who died by his hand is that ghost. So he would likely to put ease at his mind, put his mind at peace, and that's nice. They're creating the depth of the character, which is not just an ordinary guy, but someone who actually has a plan, who actually has something he's striving for. And then there is a small talk about, you know, look at that girl really likes you. But he was like, I don't know, I'm not certain, you know, well, la la la. And from the other point of that story, we have Clara speaking with the girl. So the girl is obviously special. The girl explains why she is special, because she can feel everything around her. And as Doctor says, they're the most gentle beings on earth, because they can feel things far stronger than we are. And Clara, like Clara is, he asks, why are you not telling why are you not telling him how you're about really feeling, how you feel? And it's obviously that you love him. And the girl is like, I'm not ready yet, I'm not certain that's the right time, I'm not certain how he's going to react. But, you know, it's really interesting. But the most interesting part of their conversation is when that girl says, I have looked in his heart, the Doctor's heart, and there is a silver in ice in the Doctor. I'm not certain what that actually means. I mean, we know that how Doctor is classified in the rebooted series of Doctor Who, is that he is ice and fire, that he is storm and the calamity, that he burns in the center of the sun, and he's magnificent. But I don't know why she just noticed the silver in the ice. I don't know what actually that means. I'm really trying to figure out what that actually means. But that's something had to do with Clara, because she said, Clara, you know, don't trust the Doctor because of that. What could that mean? I don't know. Maybe it's something regarding the last episode of this season, which will reveal the Doctor's real name, and regarding something like that. So I'm not certain, but it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting that what I always thought, that Clara might become weapon in the last episode. The weapon that will bring Doctor down. You know, that's my idea, you know. But I don't know, I'm really not certain about it. But it's really nice to have that cross dialogue between Doctor and that you know, guy who was in war, and Clara and the psychic girl, because in some way or another they're very similar. I mean, Clara is Doctor's companion. This girl is this guy's companion, and they have very similar, you know, relationship. Except, you know, the Doctor is not in love with Clara. That would be ridiculous if it happened again. Really ridiculous if it happened again. And that's really superb. But the most greatest point I actually liked in this episode was when first time Doctor put Clara in the TARDIS, and you know, Doctor was like, yo, just be here and wait for me, and Doctor was like going to the oldest part of the Earth. I mean, who knows when it was created, after Big Bang, after supernova. It doesn't matter. But you know, taking photos, then going in the time of the dinosaurs, then going in the Victorian time, then going in the present, then going in the future. And it was so interesting to see, but it wouldn't be interesting that Clara actually haven't said some really, really great words. And this is where actually Neil Cross shines. When the last photograph is taken and the Doctor was entering the TARDIS, he see Clara with the teary eyes, looking all somber and sad. And the Doctor was still like, oh, TARDIS must have said something wrong, you know, bad TARDIS, but it's not that. It's that, you know, and this is really great point of the episode, is that they have in a, you know, matter of minutes, if not seconds, they have seen the Earth being born and Earth dies. They have seen civilizations being born and dies. They have seen, you know, the inhabitants of this Earth disappear, and all that in minutes. And the way the Doctor has done it, you know, just, you know, he's so nonchalant walking from the first point of Earth to the last point of Earth, really, I think, hurt Clara, because, you know, to them, which is really is a truth, to them they're just, you know, moments in time. For him they're just moments in time. For example, in one point, the Clara isn't born at all. I mean, she isn't born in a million years yet. In one point, she's dead for a million years. And the parallel between ghosts and humankind is really great, because when Doctor is in future, many people have died during that point in time, and when he actually returns to, you know, present, they're all ghosts to him, because they're all dead. He has seen the world when they're all dead, and they really are all just a ghost to him. And you know, even the Clara, which, you know, he likes, but there will come a time when he will have to take a new companion, and he will have to leave Clara. And you know, even though how much Doctor likes his companion, how much he likes the people of Earth, they're all just a ghost to him. And there comes a time when he actually is, you know, taking that pretty much easy, you know. For us, the concept of, you know, us being dead or us not even being born is really hard to grasp. I mean, think about yourself, a world when you're not dead. It's really hard to imagine. Or think about the world, you know, million years in the past where you weren't even born. But Doctor is just a, you know, just a simple walk, and he actually have lost a lot of feelings for, you know, the birth, death, or generally people at all. But you know, the Doctor doesn't have something nice doesn't have something to say to ease Clara's mind. He says that that's not truth, and he actually believes that humankind are the only mystery worth solving. I don't know how to take that word, but let's say that no matter how Doctor is, how old he is, how many age he is, how much he has seen, how much he has done, still humans can't grasp him with one thought. He can't, you know, unify them under one one thing, one union. He can't, separate them. To them, every human is unique. Everyone is building his own future. Everyone is very, very important part of the time weave. And he actually believes, he can still understand why some people are doing something and some not. That's why that's mystery, that's interesting to be solved. And I understand from that point, Doctor. And we must also understand the Doctor is a lonely God. I mean, he can't really see humans as equal as him. He can't. Maybe he loves them and he will give his life for them. But he can't see them as equal. I mean, he's a man who exists at the beginning of time, and he's a man who will be at the end of the time. He will be when mankind doesn't exist. He has seen best and the worst of the mankind, so he can't really see them as the way Clara sees. And that's what's most important thing. That's why Doctor needs a companion. He needs a reality check. He needs a moral compass. He needs someone who can see the mortality of people, who can see the curiosity of people, who can see the endless starving towards progression people. He needs that. That's the part he doesn't have it in him. That's the part he doesn't have it in him. He doesn't have he can be killed, but he doesn't have a fear of old age. He can't die from old age. And that's something where companions are needed. That's why the companions are a very important part of his journey. And that's why he always needs and will have a companion on his side. From that point, when Doctor got stuck in the pocket universe, I have mentioned this in the Rings of Akaten before, that the TARDIS doesn't like Clara. It doesn't like Clara. We know with Emilia, with Rose, with Martha, with Donna, we have seen that TARDIS were far more, playing with them, are far more, allowing them to use it than the Clara. I mean, and why is there? Well, Clara is an impossible girl. That's something we know. And the Clara, by being an impossible girl, is a paradox. And we all know that TARDIS doesn't like paradox. And we also know that TARDIS know a lot of things, and I have not mentioned this in my previous review, that it might happen that TARDIS know about what Clara is and who Clara is. So therefore the next episode should be awesome, because the next episode is called The Journey in the Center of the TARDIS, and it's actually they going in the center of the TARDIS and discovering more and more about TARDIS, because TARDIS is a complex structure. It is a living being, but it's a complex structure which hides many things, and it is a mystery itself. Someone even says that the TARDIS is the universe by itself, that the TARDIS is as big as the universe is big, That's really an interesting thing to be said. And it's interesting to what also actually is insane is the way the Doctor is, explaining what TARDIS is, and even, comparing TARDIS to a cat. He said, cat doesn't like you in the first place, but it takes a lot, to grow that loyalty and understanding between those two aspects. It's so insane that he has mentioned that, because really TARDIS is like that. Except TARDIS don't allow you to time travel and take space and time, but well, you understand. And that's the great part of this episode. The other thing is, the hidden love story context in this episode. All this time we have someone who is so desperately trying to run away from his past and to help ghosts and to somehow atone for the sins he has created. And there is this girl following him and constantly look at him. You can really see that she's in love, and he doesn't understand that someone who he's supposed to love and who can make his world go finally forward again, standing right beside him. He doesn't need an atonement. He doesn't need to, discover ghosts, mysteries. He doesn't have to do that. All he has to do is hold hands with her. That's what Doctor said. To hold hands and to be happy. And the future will come by itself. And that's really nice. Because in real life, actually, not just in Doctor Who and in stories in general, people are usually blinded by something. There's so much striving towards something. They so much want to accomplish something, believing that way they will, completed themselves. That way they will become better persons. But they sometimes doesn't see that the solution for all those problems is lying beside them. They are just right beside them, and sometimes very much easier to grasp than we can see, but we're usually all blind to that. And that's the context of that story. That's the love context of this story. We have other love story of the Romeo and Juliet about that creature, you know, because that's classical also Doctor Who, because that monster is actually not even evil, not even bad at all, and actually all that he wants is to see his lover again, and that's misunderstood lovers concept of, you know, someone, you know, trying to get, that can't be someone, that must be someone we don't know, someone in the mist, you know, trying to accomplish something, and we're afraid that actually all the thing he actually wants is to, you know, harm someone, but that's not true. That's not true at all. And that's actually not true at all. All that the creature wants is to see his lover again. He's not evil in anything, and that's another concept which is greatly written in this. The interesting part regarding this, you know, episode is that it's actually a canon episode. It doesn't seem in the first place. In the first place seems that this is just another Doctor Who adventure, that it has nothing to do with the direct storytelling, but Doctor haven't randomly came to that mansion. He actually came searching for that girl. He actually wants to find out who the Clara is. And the interesting part is that that girl, no matter how she can deliver into someone's heart, some memories, really doesn't see Clara much different than any other girl around. It's just simple that she can't figure out who Clara is. Who is that girl? Who is Clara? I mean, what is she? Still, I didn't have not even a simplest theory about who she is. But it's so much interesting that it actually, in the end, this episode became canon of the Doctor Who. I mean, when I say canon, all the Doctor Who episodes are canon, but the one who are actually pushing the plot of the companion and Doctor further. I mean, not just being an adventure which they experienced, but actually pushing the plot further. So it's so much interesting that this girl haven't figured out nothing about Clara. To her, it's just a simple girl. That's so much interesting. It's so much interesting how sneaky Doctor is, you know. Came in here to show her an adventure, but he actually wants to figure out who the Clara is. And it will be so much interesting in the next episode, especially in the next episode, Journey to Central TARDIS, to discover more about Clara, who she is, what she's doing. And there is all those simple, subtle, you know, tryings of, in previous episode, in episode before that, and Doctor trying to figure out who Clara is. He's not asking her, oh, who are you? No, he's subtly with, you know, dialogue, with subtext, asking her who you are, figuring out who she is. He is really trying to discover who Clara is. He is really trying. And that's interesting. That's also interesting regarding the time traveler, regarding the canon, the importance of this episode, is I expected that the traveler got rescued from that, whatever it is that she will actually tell a lot, something, she will have some message from the future, like, I'm here because I was also searching for a doctor, I have a message for him, yada yada yada, you know, something, you know, spacey, timey-wimey. So I'm really sad that they haven't used that time traveler in that purpose. It could be far more awesome. If that would happen, that episode would be really awesome. This episode would be really awesome, but time traveler is really not well progressed character in this episode at all. The last thing I want to talk about is that time traveler. I mean, that one was stuck in the pocket universe. When the episode told us that actually the one who is the ghost is actually not the ghost but time traveler, I had a tiny clue that this character might become even important than it is. That this character might become, you know, the River Song of the Doctor Who series, because, you know, River Song also travels in time and that. But when the episode ended, I actually think that might not be true. It's really interesting that when he was, you know, the mystery was solved, and that actually the ghost isn't ghost, but time travel. I actually like that. It's not something which is uber complex, uber good, but it's actually something which works, and it works very well. And so we have that time traveler, which it doesn't actually says even much, but it's interesting to see the time traveler. Because it's interesting, but because in Doctor Who series we have went all the way further in the when the Earth was destroyed, all the way to the new Earth, and during that point in time they didn't have time traveling capabilities. So this means that this girl is actually someone who is so further in the future that it's beyond grasp. It's really beyond grasp, and that's really interesting because I always want to see the future technologies and the future mankind actually assimilating with the past or the present of Doctor Who. But it's really strange that time traveler is actually that time traveler is actually have come into some really distant past. I mean, even for us, 78 will be past. Not to mention her. I mean, and she's acting so normally, so cool and so calm. I wished there was more interaction with that character, like that he was surprised by a few things, that he's actually acting strange, talking strange, something like that, that they will have a unique personality for a time traveler. But it seems that at the end that time traveler is some grand something, and the reason why that girl psychic isn't actually psychic, or no, she is psychic, but the reason why she could so well hear ghost, feel it is because the bloodline connecting them, and how the bloodline is important, a lot. But I expected something far more than I expected, far more developed character, which we haven't received, but it's okay. I can't really say it's bad, because it would be really too much for a single episode to handle so many developed characters. But it's an interesting story. I actually, from the atmosphere of the house, I really like it. The atmosphere was interesting. It was really spooky, like the forest. I mean, the pocket universe was also interesting. I liked the colors during that scene. I actually liked the feeling during the scene with that fog. I liked actually when the doctor was petrified, scared, don't know what he was doing, running, screaming, and everything. It was nice. So those 2 points really make the atmosphere of this episode good. And really, that is all I have to say about this episode. What I want to say more is that I can't wait for another episode. This episode was good. Neil Cross interested me a lot, and I will go search for Luther after this. But the next episode, there is one day after the Angels Take Manhattan and before the Christmas special, the only episode we really knew name of was this episode, the Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. It seems that it's going to be really important episode. It's going to be really, canon-like, story-driven like episode, which is, I can't wait to see. I can't wait really to see. The writer is some guy who's called Stephen something, I forgot, but I know in the next episode, and I really can't wait to see. I really can't wait to see that episode. This one was great. I believe the next one will also be great. It will be regarding a TARDIS, TARDIS is the oldest Doctor's companion, so I can't wait to see that. The good points of this episode were, atmosphere, characters, written, Clara Doctor, the relationships, the hidden subtext, everything was great in this episode. Maybe it wasn't as great as the Rings of Akaten, but it was a great episode. Far better than the Cold War, far better than the first one. So, the first one with Clara in the season 7. So, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to review the next episode. Goodbye.